and welcome. Today we're going to talk about cybersecurity. It's this invisible shield that protects everything from your personal photos to the huge systems that power our entire world. But what is it really? Let's dig in and find out.
You've definitely seen a message like this before, right? Access denied. It's so frustrating. It's basically a digital wall telling you, nope, you can't come in here. And really, our whole online world is filled with gates and doors and locks, just like the physical world. So when you boil it all down, cybersecurity is just about controlling who gets the keys and who has to stay out. Okay, so to really get why this stuff matters so much, we need to look at what happens when those locks get picked. We're going to dive into the real-world costs of cyber attacks.
Let's take a look at two massive events that really sent shockwaves, not just through the tech world, but into our everyday lives. Back in 2011, the gaming world was absolutely rocked by the Sony PlayStation breach. And then, just a decade later, in 2021, pretty much the entire US East Coast felt the pain from the Colonial Pipeline attack.
I mean, the scale of this disruption was just staggering. Think about this. Colonial Pipeline supplies almost half the fuel for the U.S. East Coast. So when a group of hackers locked the company out of its own systems, the whole operation just stopped. It led to massive fuel shortages and, you probably remember, a lot of panic at the gas pumps. So to get the fuel flowing again, the company had to make a really tough call. They paid the attackers a ransom. And the price tag for that? A cool $4.4 million. So the pipeline attack hit us in a really physical way at the gas pump. But the Sony breach, that one was deeply personal. Hackers managed to break into the PlayStation network and got their hands on just a mountain of sensitive user data. And this wasn't some small leak. We're talking about the personal information of 77 million users. 77 million. That's names, addresses, emails, exactly the kind of stuff you never, ever want falling into the wrong hands. The financial fallout from this was just immense. When you add up all the damage, the repairs, the lawsuits, the estimated cost to Sony was a staggering $171 million. It just goes to show you protecting data isn't just about privacy, it's about a company's bottom line, big time. And look, these attacks weren't just random flashes of bad luck. The reality is the number of known security weaknesses, what we call vulnerabilities, in software is going up every single year. Why? Well, because our digital world is getting more and more complex, and we're building it faster than ever, which, leaves more room for mistakes. And every single one of those vulnerabilities is basically a potential open door for an attacker. All right, so we've seen the impact, we've seen the cost, but what are the actual tools and tricks that attackers are using? Let's meet some of the most common digital threats you're actually likely to run into. Attackers usually stick to a few common playbooks. First up, you've got malware. That's just short for malicious software, and it's designed to cause trouble. This includes stuff like viruses and ransomware. That's the software that locks up all your files until you pay up, just like we saw with the pipeline attack. Then you've got phishing scams. Those sneaky emails trying to trick you into giving away your personal info. And finally, good old-fashioned password theft, which, believe me, happens way more often than you'd think. Okay, let's go back to that massive pipeline shutdown for a second. The one that cost millions and messed up an entire coast. What do you think it was? What was the super sophisticated, high-tech weak spot the hackers used to get in? I bet the answer is going to surprise you. Believe it or not, the entire thing started with a single reused password. That's it. An employee used the same login for their work account that they'd used somewhere else, and that password had already been leaked in a different data breach. It just proves how one simple, really common mistake can literally open the door to a national disaster. Okay, so that brings us to the most important part of all of this. Knowing about the threats is one thing, but how do we actually defend ourselves? Well, the good news is you absolutely do not have to be a tech genius. There are simple, really powerful steps that every single one of us can take. Honestly, the single most effective thing you can do to protect yourself is to turn on multi-factor authentication, or MFA. Just think of it like this. Your password is the first lock on your front door. MFA is the second lock. It's the deadbolt. So even if a thief manages to steal your key, they still can't get in without that second piece of proof, like a special code that gets sent right to your phone. So here it is, your basic cyber defense toolkit. It really just boils down to 4 key habits. Number 1, use strong, and I mean unique, passwords for every single account. 2, turn on MFA everywhere you possibly can. 3, keep your software updated. That's how you patch all those security holes we mentioned earlier. And 4, maybe the simplest one, just think before you click.
Let's just double-click on that first one for a second, because as we saw with the Colonial Pipeline, it is absolutely critical. A strong password is your front door. But what's just as important is that it's unique, right? I mean, if you use the exact same key for your house, your car, and your office, and a thief stole it, well, they'd have access to your whole life. It's the exact same thing with passwords.
So as we start to wrap this up, the big takeaway is this. Cybersecurity isn't some super complex technical thing that's only for experts. It's really just a set of simple, smart habits. And when you practice them consistently, you build this incredibly powerful shield around your entire digital life. And that really just leaves us with one last question for you to think about. We store everything online, right? Our memories, our work, our money, our friendships. It is all so incredibly valuable. So the question is, are your habits, your digital habits,